What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so, I keep seeing people, not everybody, not most people, but I see some people saying things like, Shannon Sharpe is being ungrateful because he should show more loyalty to Skip. Because Skip got him his start. He was nothing before Skip. Skip is the one that gave him the platform. And he didn't really start hearing any of this until Shannon Sharpe had the audacity to stand up for himself when Skip was trying to bully him. And when he left the show recently, well, technically he left the show. He still appeared for a little bit more until the finals, and then his relationship with Fox Sports will be kaput. Seeing some people saying, Shannon's just not showing appreciation for Skip giving him his start. Well, technically, he didn't give Shannon Sharpe his start. Shannon Sharpe has been on the NFL Network for years, since his retirement. And if I recall correctly, I think Shannon Sharpe has even been on ESPN for a year or two. But I definitely know he was on the NFL Network. And when I watched him, I've always thought that he outshined most of his colleagues. And to be honest with you, before this whole LeBron thing, I loved Shannon Sharpe. The first couple of years of Undisputed, we loved Shannon Sharpe. But when he started taking some stances that was probably contrary to the majority of us in the black community, a lot of things, and not to say you can't have your own opinion, that's not what it is, but when he was showing signs of what many prominent personalities of quote-unquote color tend to show when once they start making money, they tend to start compromising their integrity on certain issues. But that's not the point of this video. The point is that we liked Shannon Sharpe for a very long time. And even when he got on our nerves, even when we criticized him, I can never deny that he has charisma and a dynamic personality. And to be honest with you, it got to a point where Shannon Sharpe was becoming bigger than the show. He was clearly the dominant factor in that show. And I do believe there was some professional jealousy when it came to Skip and Shannon. But you got people saying Shannon is not being loyal and not being appreciative. So I wonder if some of these people feel the same way about Jim Carrey for many years. For many years, Jim Carrey struggled in Hollywood. He struggled. There were some early movies that he was in the 80s. Once Bitten, Earth Girls Are Easy. If you're an 80s head, you know these movies. These movies that don't really resonate with people that know Jim Carrey from the 90s onward. But Jim Carrey struggled to find a vehicle that could showcase his talent. Jim was, at one point in time, perceived as a failure because he could not make it in Hollywood. He wasn't succeeding in Hollywood. So there was this young man, these two young men actually, who was starting this show in the late 80s, early 90s on Fox. It was going to be called In Living Color. These two young men were brothers, Keenen Ivory Wayans and Damon Wayans. And they were trying to fill out the roster, the talent roster for this particular show. And they came upon a young man who had been known amongst the underground for many, many years for his prodigious talent, but he just didn't have the vehicle to showcase them. This was to be a show on Fox, a sketch comedy show. This show was going to be groundbreaking in that it was going to push the boundaries when it came to censors, controversial, perceived by some as irreverent, mocking, and just downright disrespectful. Just the vehicle that Jim Carrey needed to succeed. And they hired him after he blew away his rehearsal, blew away his audition, I should say. And the rest is history. He was, and no disrespect to everybody else on that show, he was a breakaway talent, which led this show, In Living Color, led to Jim Carrey having a Fox movie. You might remember Doing Time, I think it was called Doing Time on Maple Drive. This movie showcased that Jim Carrey had dramatic acting chops, but then it was a little movie called Ace Ventura that put him on the map, and then he became the #1 box office star in the world for about 3 years. You know the movies: Ace Ventura, Ace Ventura 2, Cable Guy, Liar Liar, The Mask, Batman Returns. He was fucking everywhere. But some of us felt like, man, couldn't you throw some of your old buddies a little bit of a bone? Can't you get Kenan a role? Maybe Damon? He didn't really seem to keep in contact with many of his former In Living Color associates. Not saying you had to be friends, but not too much loyalty was shown for many years. Maybe he got a little big-headed. But the point of this video is, Jim Carrey, I'm pretty sure, will forever be grateful for the opportunity that Kenny Ivory Wayans gave him. And it gave him the perfect vehicle to showcase his talent. But Kenny Ivory Wayans doesn't own Jim Carrey. When Jim Carrey was able to showcase the talent that he had, then fate took over. Same thing with Eddie Murphy. Are we going to say that Eddie Murphy is forever in Lorne Michaels' debt for casting him on Saturday Night Live? When you can argue that it was fucking Eddie Murphy that kept Saturday Night Live from being canceled? He was so goddamn popular that I think he still to this day is the only cast member, active cast member, not former cast member, but active cast member to host the show. He was a phenomenon. When he did 48 Hours, he was still a cast member of Saturday Night Live. When he did 48 Hours, he was only 19 or 20 years old. That's hard to believe, isn't it? When he did 48 Hours, he was still technically at first a teenager. Remarkable. So these arguments about Shannon Sharp need to be, shut the hell up, okay? At the end of the day, that's the nature of the business. You find yourself a vehicle to showcase your talent, and while you're appreciative of the situation, you're always trying to look to advance and to advance your own career, period. And Shannon Sharp looking to advance his own career, and at the end of the day, Shannon Sharp doesn't need Skip Bayless anymore. Just like Jim Carrey didn't need In Living Color anymore, Eddie Murphy didn't need Saturday Night Live anymore. That's just how things go. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.